All right. Hello, good morning, and good afternoon for those joining us from other time zones. Welcome to today's webinar, Delivering Instant Self-Service Analytics with Tableau on Big Data. My name is Tyler Wishnoff. I'm a marketing manager for Kyligence and your moderator for today's session. I'm joined by Saikat Basu, Kyligence's Senior Solutions Architect. Saikat brings with him deep experience in the big data analytics space, having spent the last few decades as a technology leader at Fortune 100 companies and helping high-profile startups improve and scale how they serve their customers from the very early stages all the way to IPO. Today, Saikat will be channeling those years of experience helping customers adeptly transform their analytics organizations for today's workshop, where he'll provide us a roadmap to faster big data analytics and more streamlined self-service with Tableau. Now, before we begin, a few minor housekeeping items. Today's presentation should run for about 30 to 45 minutes, with 15 minutes reserved at the end for Q&A. Please reserve all questions for the Q&A section, and you can communicate those questions at any time via the Q&A function, which can be toggled with the Q&A symbol at the bottom of your screen. Lastly, this webinar is also being recorded, and you'll have access to it a few days following this session. With that said, I'll pass things over to Saikat to get us started. Saikat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tyler. Thanks, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Saikat. I will be presenting today's webinar of Kyligence integration with Tableau. We will follow this agenda for today's session. First, we will introduce ourselves. We will talk about the trends in big data and all the challenges faced by traditional BI platforms. Then we'll talk about Kyligence integration with Tableau, which is the main topic of today's session. Finally, before going into actual product deep dive, we will briefly touch upon a few use cases. However, I make a slight deviation here. I will tell you a story with an actual use case, and I will relate that at the end of my presentation. A few years back, when the storm season was almost over, Weather Department forecast a massive cyclone was coming to hit 8 states in South and Southeast. One of the largest retailers in the country immediately stocked tons of products like battery operated lights, canned foods, rain shields, tent, etc., etc. Most of those items were sold out on time. On the actual day of the storm, retail management was struggling to make discount decisions on the unsold inventory. They wanted to avoid carrying cost later. Now, who is Kylin? What is Kylin? The problem of the customers today I just described, Kylin is one of the solutions for those customers who want fast response against their query run on huge, large pool of data. Kylin is an open source distributed analytics engine designed to provide SQL interface and OLAP analysis on big data, supporting extremely large data sets and committed to provide response time in sub-second manner. It was originally developed in eBay in the year 2013. In 2015, Apache Kylin graduated to be a top-level project of Apache Software Foundation. It is built in Java and runs on Spark. Kyligence is often termed as Kylin, added with additional built-in intelligence. Actually, what is Hortonworks and Cloudera to Hadoop, Databricks to Spark, Kyligence is same to Kylin. This company was founded in 2016 by the original creators of Kylin. It offers an unprecedented query performance over petabytes of data to many customers globally, like Union Pay, JP Morgan, China Telecom, L'Oreal, etc., etc. It has a global presence with dual headquarters in Shanghai and San Jose. Now let me transition to a Gartner slide here, and let's see what Gartner describes and Gartner projects. Gartner says that hindsight, insight, and foresight are different states of awareness of today's users, their demands, and also technology advancement. And Gartner describes as follows. Yesterday, the hindsight was yesterday when people were really happy with just static reports for their day-to-day business. Then users' expectation increased. They wanted to do historical data analysis to know the trends of their customers, to know the affinity of their customers with a particular product or service, if there was any seasonal pattern in their business, and many more other types, which led to the necessity of OLAP and data mining. But users' expectation didn't stop there. Now they wanted to forecast their customers' behavior in advance, which combined OLAP with machine learning and predictive analytics. Finally, the business owners not only wanted to foresee and predict customers' behavior in advance, but they wanted to achieve it in reality. They started asking questions to their BI platform like, what should I do? What will make my sale better? How can I achieve what I projected? And that is what is prescriptive analytics as defined by Gartner. And Gartner says this is going to rule the industry for next few years. In this slide, we show user community groups, data analysts who are experts to serve the requirement of business users, not only by providing interactive reports in an agile manner, but also offering a self-service platform where business people themselves can find out a particular insight from data independently. Then there are partners and clients who want to have access to the data, but from their own perspective, and they wanted to make changes there as well. Still, at the end of the day, it is a fact that only very less amount of insight and foresight reaches the top management. There are lots of opportunities to increase that percentage of insight and foresight for satisfying the actual drivers of the business. Driven by this increased demand and to support the challenges of prescriptive analytics, we see technological advancement also continuously happening in parallel. Modern data analysis platforms focuses on specific technology, of course, on big data and with machine learning too. This enhanced analysis can automate the process of data preparation, data visualization, insight gathering from their huge large data lakes. And this often eliminates the need for professional data scientists, even for some use cases. This enhanced analysis capacity over terabytes and petabytes of data with significantly reduced response time as seconds instead of hours and minutes is offered by what Kyligence offers, that is augmented OLAP analytic engine. Let's see what are the challenges faced by traditional BI platforms today. With increased volume, exponential growth of data, they often suffer from some kind of sluggishness, and they lack certain features which are of extreme relevance today. They are lack of scalability, support for high concurrency, fast query response time, and of course, lack of agility. Long development cycle, less concurrency, and lack of agility make total cost of ownership very high for organizations to absorb. Business today, if they feel a necessity, a requirement for a use case implementation, and if they have to wait for months to get that really implemented, then they lose that necessity. Time is the essence for today's business. Today's industry is readily waiting to welcome any disruptive solution which provides capacities to overcome all the challenges just described we face today. And these new welcome features are hybrid cloud infrastructure, optimized cost model, leveraging distributed high-performance scalable execution framework like Spark, 360-degree view of single source of truth organization-wide, interactive dashboards for executives with drill-down feature, self-service analytics with reduced or no dependency on IT people, capacity to address business needs in an agile manner, and finally, to execute queries at petabyte scale with response time in seconds, not hours. Now let's come back to Kyligence installation, implementation, deployment, how users can use Kyligence with extreme ease. Kyligence platforms, first of all, it is a hybrid solution. Users can deploy on-premise as well as on cloud. It has a feature like automated cluster formation with load balancing as well as cluster resizing capacity. It offers a very cost-optimized infrastructure. When enterprise features as fault tolerance, auto-scalable cluster with state-of-the-art execution framework as Spark, it can be deployed on Hadoop platform. At the same time, it can run independent of Hadoop. Kyligence offers very high concurrent user access, at the same time maintaining high performance and sub-second query response time. And that is possible by its AI-driven augmented OLAP platform. Kyligence Cloud is highly secured to offer enterprise-wide security and single sign-on. It is a multi-tenants compliant environment. Kyligence, when integrated with Tableau, it addresses the challenges and overcome the pain points of today's BI users. We launched Kyligence integration with Tableau for self-service analytics with augmented OLAP. Kyligence keeps heterogeneous and diverse data sources totally hidden from the analytic users. It can connect and ingest data from any RDBMS, NoSQL such as Greenplum, big data as Hive, at the same time streaming data from Kafka. Multidimensional OLAP modeling and query acceleration is independent of underlying data layer. For users, it offers an ANSI SQL compliant user interface with visual drag and drop features for extreme ease of use. Tableau can connect to Kyligence cluster via ODBC, JDBC, as well as analysis server API, leveraging the semantic MDX layer and taking the advantage of XML interface. Most importantly, Kyligence is not a replacement to Tableau or any BI platform per se. Rather, Kyligence is a supplement to them. In this slide, we have explained Kyligence as a seamlessly integrated metadata layer working behind Tableau Analytics platform, providing total isolation and abstraction from diverse heterogeneous data layer of varied sources, types, formats, and structures. It offers AI-driven augmented OLAP to Tableau users who can derive the benefits of auto-tuned accelerated models with built-in intelligence as they further tune themselves for any slight variation in the queries in terms of changes in dimensions or measures. Kyligence can transform Tableau, a perfect self-service, easy-to-use platform for business users, providing sub-second response time for queries at terabyte and petabyte scale. We completely focus on business insight, absolutely offering no involvement with the analytic users for understanding the nitty-gritties of underlying technical layers like Hadoop cluster, like Spark. The users don't need to look into any such things. It makes Tableau an intelligent, machine learned, agile, scalable solution for analytics and business users who can do their work with no dependence at all on engineers, architects, and even data scientists in some cases. Now let's talk about some use cases. You remember I told you a story how a retailer was struggling for getting fast query response times to take some informed business decision quickly. And today's industry have witnessed, have seen such solution who can address those problems. Actually, after that storm, that one of the largest retailers in US, they moved from proprietary traditional platform onto open standard Hadoop storage and Spark execution framework. And instantaneously, they derived the benefits of cost effectiveness, improved query response time, handling diverse data sources, quick informed business decisions they were able to take now. Actually, we have a very similar success story also, and that happened in one of the top 10 largest banks in the world. To reduce their IT cost, long development process, high latency in query response, this bank moved from DB2 and Cognos platform to open standard Hadoop and Tableau integrated with Kyligence. Let's take a look at the benefits these customers got when they make such a migration. You can see that costs came down to 100,000s from millions. Concurrent user support increased manifold. Query response time significantly reduced. And there are many other advantages too. But I will not spend much time talking on the slides. I'm sure all of you are interested and waiting to see the actual product demo. And let me go there now. Let me start with actual Tableau desktop. And I wish to show you how easily Tableau users can connect to Kyligence backend cluster. There are several options to connect. First, Tableau offers ODBC, and you can very easily download and install Kyligence ODBC driver in your stack and make a connection. You just need to provide IP address, port, and login credentials. That's it. Similarly, Tableau also offers JDBC driven connections as well, and Kyligence also offers JDBC driver to download for its users. And here, as I said earlier, you can make connections to Kyligence if you have SSS installed in your machine, and you can connect to the API advertised by Kyligence cluster via its XML interface and MDX semantic layer. you just need to grab that URL and provide login credentials here. It has made the connection and offered me the list of available data sets. I choose one particular data set and one particular cube or model, which I'll describe later. Now let's go to the design sheet. And at the very beginning, I want to show you the total count of records we have in the fact table against which I am building a report. And look at this number. This is 60 billion. Isn't it amazing? And have you noticed the response time it took to do this calculation? It was not even a second. And remember one thing, for this particular demo, I have disabled, I am not using any caching mechanism. Any query I'm running here is going to the backend Kyligence cluster, response coming back from there, and Tableau is doing the rendering. I will show you that later. Now let's try to build a simple report here. Say, for example, I want to see the total revenue earned as by the company as described in their fact table. Also, let me add some order quantity they have sold. Now I want to drill down. I want to see against, say, for example, customer dimension, and I want to see how the revenue came and products sold countrywide, nationwide. So I drag and drop the nation dimension or customer country dimension here. And you can see how fast I got this report rendered. And again, I am not using any caching. And of course, this data is also open standard data. This is actually a TPC benchmark data we are using for this particular demonstration. Okay, let me take you directly on the Kyligence platform. Let me show you the secret sauce, why, how I was able to see the lightning fast response against 60 billion row data sets in the Kyligence engine. So how those queries were responded in sub-second manner. So what you are seeing here is Kyligence user interface for cloud. And you can see the queries I was running there, like nation, revenue, etc., total product sold. It has been grabbed here, and it has been responded in sub-second manner. Also, notice one thing, how it has been response at such a high speed. That has been possible by using the demo model, which helped these queries to respond such a high speed. So what is this demo model? I will come back to there later. But for now, let me take you to the actual query pane. And I want to show you the same query running here and see how fast response you get. So I copy the line count query and execute. And look at the response, 60 billion rows of data in the fact table itself. And it has been possible because it has been answered by a model. Also, let me run the other query, the report I built there on Tableau. So it's a very similar. I wanted to take two measure as order price, and I joined with the customer dimension. And again, it has taken only 40 for 0.45, for 450 milliseconds instead of minutes and hours. And it has counted, it has done the aggregation and provided countrywide breakdown of the total revenue. How these things are happening? Let's go to see at the model now. So what is a model? Say, let's take a look at this model. A model is actually the secret sauce for running those queries so fast. And here, this is the fact table, which has 60 billion rows, and it is connected with 4 different dimensions: time, supplier, product, and customer. And they are simply connected with foreign key and surrogate key and primary key, of course. And you can play around with that. You can have your own definition of joining. Also, at the same time, you may not even touch it. The Kyligence built-in intelligence can pick up this model directly from the query. I'll show you that. I will demonstrate that. But here you can manually also, by dragging and dropping, and with extreme ease of use, you can add measures. You can pick up any built-in function, aggregation, ranking filter, and you can pick up any measure column from the fact table. The same for the dimension. You can pick and choose any dimension from the fact table, dimension columns, or the lookup tables. You don't stop there. You have the capacity to even add computed columns, and you can define your own computation against any of or against any combination of measures existing in the data set, and you want to add these derived columns in your report. So now it's not all. Even when you save this model, it asks you to implement data partitioning, or you can choose no partitioning. Of course, for a large data set, partitioning makes sense. It helps you to get even better response. Now, let's come out from here. Let's look at it. What is inside in a model? So let's expand this model and let's take a look at the index. As I told you, a model is nothing but a multidimensional cube, and it consists of several small cuboids, as we call it. And what is a cuboid? A cuboid is a combination of dimension and measures. So what's the secret sauce of augmented OLAP engine of Kyligence? It keeps all the possible combination of dimensions and measures with their aggregated measured value. So whenever a query comes, it responds with the pre-calculated result. I'll show you certain things here. Let's take a look at this particular cuboid or combination. And you can see it has combined, it has taken, it is an all-inclusive combination. It has taken all the measures and dimensions available in this particular data set. And when this index is loaded with data, it has taken terabytes of space. Now it is your decision. Do you really run any query in a day where you include all possible dimensions and measures in your data set? If your answer is yes, and if you run those queries several times in a day, it makes sense. It is worth to build and load data into that query and allocate resources for that. However, if your usage pattern is not that high for that particular type of query, you can skip that. You may not allocate that much of resource for this index. This is how we offer cost optimization for resource allocation to our users. And also, if I take a look here, it tells me certain thing as a recommendation. So what is the recommendation? I told you that our models keeps itself up to date, auto tuned with the help of built-in intelligence. And this is where it comes. When a slight deviation happens in a query and that is answered by this particular model, it recommends its users, hey, I see you have added a new measure in your query. And to serve that query better in such a uh, huge scale of data, I suggest you add this measure into your model, and also you add quite a few number of indexes and load data there so that you get an even faster response. Now it's up to the user. He accepts it or he decides to allocate resource for that depending on his usability, or he ignores it. So I want to show you certain things which are happening here by building them from scratch. So let's go to Kyligence Enterprise, which is the horsepower behind this Kyligence Cloud. So if I take you to the dashboard, this is the Kyligence Cloud dashboard. And as I was telling you, you see the usage pattern of each of the built-in models. So this particular model, you can see it serves maximum number of query. So it is worth to allocate resource for this model and all the indexes inside that, which is really helping the queries to respond fast. It also gives you other usability metrics and resource utilization metrics. But let me take you to another uh, significant area, which is acceleration. So whenever a new query comes to Kyligence cluster from front-end Tableau or any BI engine, it keeps those queries in record. It detects if any variation happened and recommends customer to adjust the model. And at the same time, it keeps those queries and accelerates them for better performance. And that performance improves over time. More and more the same queries run, users get more and more better and better performance from them. We offer our users everything automatic: query detection, model building, index necessity understanding, loading data into index. At the same time, it offers flexibility for human intervention at each and every level. There are rules. However, you can override the rules at any time depending on your requirement, use case, and usability metrics. Say, for example, query acceleration rules. To avoid excessive load on the cluster or to offer a cost optimization in accordance with the importance of your workload, we define certain users and user groups and some interval times. So all the queries appearing in the waiting list, which are not yet accelerated, they wait in a queue to be accelerated depending on if they have arrived from certain users or group of users according to their importance. However, as I told you, you have option to override them manually. So now let me go to the, let me switch my dummy project here as well as on the cloud. And let me show you something I built from the scratch. I show you the actual tangible difference in query response and how everything is working. So for that matter, I come to the model first. And before looking into anything, let me first disable or make all the models offline. And I take you to the query pane. And I pick up a query which is very similar to what I ran from Tableau desktop. I pick up two measure, quantity and total revenue, and I ran again customers nation. I added two more hierarchical geography hierarchy measure dimensions here as region and market segment. So I copy this and execute it here. And remember, I disabled all the models. Let me submit that query. Now here, I request you to have little patience and bear with me for the time this query takes to execute. And remember, it is again getting executed on a very large, huge data set. So it has taken close to a minute's time, but note significant, one significant thing to notice here, please note, it has been answered by stored objects because right now there is no model, no acceleration. It simply executed as on a standard traditional database engine and utilized the stored objects for that. Now let me reset it. Now let me go back to the model. Let me take a look at the model. So this model is similar as I have already shown and demonstrated to you. I have 4 dimensions. I have one fact table. I have connected each of them. However, in my measure, I am picking up only 2 measures, total revenue and total quantity sold. Of course, using with 2 different functions here. Similarly, for the dimension, I have picked up my customer dimension and also I added my time dimension here. And I have not used any partitioning, but I could for a better performance. So now let me take a look at inside this model. So when I go to the aggregation, I can see the cuboids, the permutation and combinations of dimensions and measures it has kept inside it so that it can respond to the queries better. So I can take a look at any of these built-in cuboids and I can see the pattern. If I come here and do the same analysis, I can see there is a large cuboid and it has taken significant size. And I'm sure it is a superset of combination of all available measures and dimensions. So it is user's choice. You want to keep it, you want to allocate resource for that, or you don't. However, let me enable this model now and go back to the query and run the same query again. Look at the time. It has taken 400 milliseconds only. Let's go to the query history. 40, almost a minute, and from there in subsecond. Last time it ran without any model, and this time it ran with model. Let me now go to the acceleration and show something different there. So you have seen that I ran a query. It has already picked up that query in the acceleration list, and depending on any variation, modification in this query, it will run it for acceleration in a batch process, defining as defined in the rules here, already explained. But I want to override the rules. I want to do it manually. So for that matter, I delete everything from here. I delete even all the accelerated already accelerated queries from here. Instead, I want to show you the manual process, which is other alternative way to build a model as well as acceleration. So I pick up one of my query manually. So this is the same query, exactly same. However, I just added another measure as supply cost in addition to the two existing measures. So let's open it and submit this query. And you can see it has appeared in the waiting list to be accelerated for better performance. And that will follow the rule. However, I am overriding that manually. And so do that, I select that query and click on the acceleration button. And immediately it gets accelerated. Now I go back to the query pane and I reset this and I pick up the other query where I added that additional measure as supply cost. So let me copy this and execute this one now. And look at the response time. Even faster, only 280 milliseconds, but it has drilled down even more data with more granularity, more number of measures. Let me show you in the history tab. You see the time we saved from 43 to milliseconds, even query with higher complexity. And finally, let me show you one thing. After that, I will hand this session over to Tyler. And that is, let me go back to the model and open this model. And you can see that the model has detected the variation in the query and added supply cost in the measure. So that's all from my side for today's session. And I thank you all for your interest, for your patience to look at this session. And I hand it over to Tyler to take the questions from all the attendees. Thank you again.
Great. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, SciCat. Now, I'd like to open the floor to questions. Remember, you can submit your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of the webinar interface. We're also lucky to have two other experienced solutions architects here with us on the line. We've got Seswata Sengupta and our very own principal architect, Zitong Wei. So to also help us field some additional questions. So we've got a few already, but if anything comes up, please feel free to submit them into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. SciCat, the first question that I had that came in is, how long does it usually take to calculate cuboids?
It depends on the volume of data. If I build a cuboid and load data into it, whether the time taken and size occupied depends on the total number of rows in the fact table and dimension tables.
Great. And then was a batch process run separately, or does that happen in real time when the query is given?
Yes, you can define the batch process to happen at a very high frequency. However, you have to consider the load our cluster is getting for that. You have to size the cluster accordingly too.
Okay, great. And does Kyligence also support SQL as well as MDX?
Yes, of course. When our users connect to Kyligence via MDX API, they can leverage the semantic benefits. I mean, the benefits of semantic MDX layer, like hierarchy. They can define measures with derived columns. They can define named sets, etc., which are the specific features offered by MDX only.
Great. Is there an upper limit on how much data can be loaded into Kyligence?
There is no limit at all. Kyligence architecture is horizontally scalable, and users can load as much data as they want.
And does Kyligence support incremental loading, or can the loading be scheduled?
Yes, Kyligence can load and refresh data incrementally based on partition defined in the model. The job can be triggered from UI, and also it can be built via using the API.
Great. And then this next question, there's two parts to it. So first of all, what does Kyligence provide, on top of what Apache Kylin may already provide for Tableau? And does Kyligence provide row level and column level security?
Very good question. Actually, when integrated with security, Kyligence can offer enterprise-wide single sign-on, depending on any security framework like LDAP, like Kerberos. And then the BI users have limited access, restricted access, and restricted analytic capability on the data residing on Kyligence cluster. It is multi-tenant safe. So the cloud offering of Kyligence is also designed and architected to offer support to different customers, providing them absolute privacy.
Great. So that covers more of the security part of the question, but I'm wondering if you could speak maybe to in terms of the differences between Kyligence and Apache Kylin, also when it comes to their performance or their ability to accelerate Tableau.
Yes, as I said, Kyligence is built on Kylin, but with additional intelligence like auto-tune, like better further scalability, like enterprise console with display of resource utilization and model usability and resource allocation, etc., etc. In terms of security implementation, also Kyligence offers the security integration for single sign-on enterprise-wide, and those features are not available on Kylin. So Kyligence makes Kylin enterprise ready by offering these additional features on top of the core OLAP, augmented OLAP engine.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Here's another one. Is the batch processing done on the same cluster as reporting, and can they be separated with a cube replication process?
Yes, it can be. The BI engine batch process is has dependence on backend, but it depends on how you design them. And Kyligence acceleration batch is independent, can be independent of BI platform batch process. However, it can be tied together as well.
Great. And a reminder to folks that may have questions, I do see a few hands raised. If you could please submit them into the Q&A section, that would be very helpful for us to get to them and make sure we don't miss them. My next question for you, Saikat, is does Kyligence's acceleration capabilities work on MicroStrategy or with MicroStrategy as well?
To address this question, I will pass it on to my colleague, another panelist, Shashwata. He may be able to answer it better.
Yes, thank you, Saikat. Yes, the acceleration works regardless of any BI tool. So anytime you execute a query, that query gets pushed down into that engine, and the engine, AI engine decides on the acceleration based on the rules and the users you provide. So no limitations on the BI tool itself. We can work with any BI tool.
Awesome.
Thank you, Shashwata.
So, I think we've talked about limits before, but here's another one that came in. Is there a limitation on the number of dimensions that Kyligence can support?
My answer is no, but again, I ask Shashwata to verify that.
Yes, there is no known limitations in the number of dimensions. And the way we do the modeling is a little different. So we can mark a single data set as dimension as well as measure. So we do not have any limitations, and we are horizontally scalable as well.
Awesome, thank you. What platforms does the Kyligence driver support?
You mean the ODBC and JDBC drivers?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, they are platform independent. In general, ODBC is supported on the Windows clients. It is preferred, and JDBC is platform agnostic.
Okay,
so
great.
They can run on any platform. They can be used on any platform.
All right, wonderful. And I've got a couple more questions. Remember, if anything you got, you can always submit that, and also you can follow up with us after the webinar if you have additional questions that either maybe we didn't fully answer, or that maybe come up after you've had a chance to rewatch this. The next question that I have is there a way to easily migrate existing Tableau dashboards to use in Kyligence?
I believe yes, but I would ask help from Shashwata to answer this.
Yes, it is easy. So what you do is typically when you have your a new older data source, so you have your Tableau dashboard, we take your BI queries, we take into our Kyligence platform, we create the model using your queries, and then we take the Tableau dashboard and point to the model. Pretty seamless in that way, and pretty fast, execute to result kind of a solution. So definitely we do have that capability, and we do it in a much more smarter way.
Thank you, Shashwata.
Wonderful. And then I have two more questions at the moment. So can one have dynamic custom columns? And if the answer is yes to that, how can it be included as part of the OLAP cube?
If I have understood your question correct, a dynamic or derived column or computed column can be added while I design the model, even with a few mouse clicks. Also, it can be done later at the semantic MDX layer. And I ask Shashwata to verify my answer.
Yeah, that is correct. You can define those columns, and that can be part of your OLAP cube itself. And you have ability to do it at the engine level or at the semantic layer level. And you can do very, very complex dynamic columns, if you will, including case statements and other forms of calculation.
Perfect. Thank you both for collaborating on that answer. Let's see. And the last question I actually have right now is it's a good question, I think, is there any sandboxes for starting a trial?
Answer is yes. Users or prospects can very easily instantiate sandbox on the cloud. At the same time, they can ask for a trial license for on-prem installation for a limited time.
Wonderful. All right. So that's looks to be the remaining questions. Remember, if anything comes up afterwards or you think of something that you're curious about, you can always reach out to us. And you can also reach out directly to me. My information is available both on the sign-up information for this webinar, as well as in the follow-up content that you'll be receiving. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you again, SciCap, for sharing your insights with us. And thanks to Seswata and Zatong as well, also as an extra special thank you to everyone who attended today's session. We appreciate you sharing your time with us. We hope you got
everybody.
Yeah, we hope you got a lot out of today's session, and we look forward to having you at our next webinar, which is going to be the week after next on Thursday, April 30th. It has us looking at accelerating query performance on Excel, and even when you're working with petabytes of data. If Excel does a lot of heavy lifting in your organization, this really is a can't miss session. And also, if you're interested in learning more about Kyligence and our enterprise-ready solutions for analytics, acceleration, or would like to set up a personalized one-on-one demo, you can visit our website at www.kyligence.io. You can also request a free trial of our on-premises and cloud solutions through our website as well at the top right corner of our homepage while on your desktop. It's super easy to get started on your own, and we're here if you happen to need any support. Really, no obligations. Give it a try. You can sign up right now. And if you're wondering about the free Kyligence shirt, keep an eye out on your inbox for an email from a member of our team with more information about how to request that. And as for the $25 gift card, we'll be holding a drawing later this week, and we'll reach out to all of those who end up getting selected to win one of the gift cards. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Kyligence and on LinkedIn as well. Thanks again for attending. Have a wonderful rest of your day.